I'm Tim Gordon.
And I'm Roger Pike.
And this is Communication Steroids, where
we add muscle to your message.
Now, in this particular episode, the longer version of it, we had a very lively conversation about press relations. So we talked specifically about press releases, as well as press events, conferences, press conferences, media events, and so on and so forth. And we think there are some very key things you need to know when it comes to handling the press. Control the message, right?
Yeah, exactly. Don't let the message control you. When you put out a press release, make sure you include all the basic information, including contact information. And the contact should be someone who is accessible and who can actually comment knowledgeably and on the record.
Right away.
Right away.
Yeah. Because we both come from radio backgrounds where we spent time in news tanks, as they call it, as news directors or news editors or news reporters, where you get a dozen or 2 dozen or 5 dozen press releases in a day. They come in by fax, they come in by snail mail, they come in via email. And so if you want to get anybody's attention in a newsroom, you got to have, first of all, you got to get the basics there. Have a good headline and put all of your key information or the most important points right in the first sentence and the first paragraph.
Exactly. Your impact should be in the first paragraph. The explanation of the impact, or in the first sentence, and the explanation of the impact should be in the first paragraph.
And that, if it's worthwhile, that'll get people to call you up. And then, of course, you've got to be able to have the content information that Roger just mentioned to the person that can comment on it right away, who's accessible almost virtually 24 hours a day. I mean, very close to it.
A lot, anyway.
Yeah, a lot, anyway. Some of the other things we want to talk about, or we did talk about, and that is different medias have different ways of, you should have different ways of handling the media because they're looking for different things. We talked about radio. Radio's looking for short audio bits, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, no more than 20 seconds. So you want to be able to give them a sound bite. It's kind of an odd thing, but it's the way the media works.
Yeah, it is. I mean, what radio sells is 2 things. It sells its immediacy because it can happen at the same time that the event happens, and it also sells the fact that it has an audio component. That's what it's about. So they want sound bites. They want different voices on the air. They want to play interesting sounds, and that's why they want a sound bite. That's why they want to.
I know so many times I've worked a news station and been late there at night, and a fire or something's broken out, and by God, you want to get the public information officer on the scene. You want to get him to say something specific like, well, it looks like arson, or the whole thing's burning down, and you could write that. You could say that. But to have the guy on the scene say it is...
Hear the fire engines clanging in the background. I can remember one of the best audio bits I ever did was when a big gas pipe ruptured, and you had this high-pitched whine in the background the whole time I was doing the newscast. That's what radio wants.
Okay, so what's TV want, right?
Pictures, obviously.
They want a good picture.
If
it bleeds, it leads.
If it burns, it's
true.
It is true. If it burns, it's going to be. It'll
supersede all the other important stories because if they have a good picture, it's going to get on first. So if you've got some sort of a press event and you can create some sort of element that'll give a very
compelling
good picture.
Visual. Compelling visual.
That will get you on TV. Print, on the other hand, they don't care about audio bits or short sound bites or cute pictures, although if you got a good photograph, that's probably not going to hurt. They want compelling narrative.
Compelling narrative. They want a story.
They want some background. They want some context. They want a little history. They want to get deeper into it. If you go to magazines, you've got a monthly magazine. They go even much deeper.
They do, and they're going to want history. They're going to want all of the components that went into building whatever it is that is the source of your compelling narrative. That's why the news magazines are probably the greatest source of information, in my opinion, in-depth information in the world, is because of that ability.
And of course, in this half an hour conversation we had about handling the press, we did talk about new media to a certain degree. New media has really, really changed things from just 8 or 10 years ago. Of course, the Internet's been around that long, but it keeps evolving, keeps changing. There's blogs out there. It's unfiltered news. And so you must be aware of the different ways to handle your news because you have to be much more transparent as a company, as a press officer, than you could afford to be 10 years ago.
Yeah, and the blogosphere has broken big stories, stories that have had life, had legs.
That have led to impeachments.
Yeah, led to impeachments, yeah.
As a matter of fact. But let's talk a bit about the press conference. There's really 2 kinds. One would be the friendly kind, the collegial kind, where you call and you get people to come and you're putting out a story on a product launch or new people in the company, or you've got an event or something. And then there's the kind that you're forced to call because you're in damage control, perhaps.
Right. That's the confrontational press conference. You usually have those because of some kind of product failure, recall, management issue, high-profile dismissal, job losses and layoffs, dealings with the governments that have gone astray, accusations of impropriety, those things you don't want to handle.
What's the first thing you have to ask yourself when this happens, or get together with the executive management group? What do you say?
The press information officer needs to get together with executive management and ask, are we guilty? Did we do it? And that's the first thing.
And once you determine that, then you figure out what your plan of action is and how you're going to get that message out.
Yep, and you get ahead of the story, particularly when it's bad news. You get ahead of it by, first of all, understanding where your responsibility lies and admitting to that responsibility, and then by secondarily having an action plan that you release along with your admission of guilt. This is what happened. Whether we were entirely responsible for it or not, this is what happened, and this is what we're doing about it. This is how we are mending the people who we may have be injuring. This is not injuring. That's the wrong word. Who we may have caused some distress because of a product that didn't work. For example, we're recalling the product. We're providing them with a new product. We have retooled our quality control and have invested $400 million in new quality control apparatus, whatever it is.
Whatever the plan of action is. Yeah,
exactly.
Make sure you have that, yeah. But basically, Roger, we talked a lot about this neat stuff. We thought maybe we'd get 15 or 20 minutes out of it. We actually had a nice half-hour conversation about dealing with the press, some very specific information that if you're in that position of communicating with the press on those issues, I think your communication steroids is really going to help you out there if you go check out part 6. And so let's wrap up this podcast. Roger, nice to have you here in the studio.
Always a pleasure to be here.
All right, thanks again.
Bye-bye.